Good evening, Africa. My name is Mamakore, actor, model, producer, and I'm giving a big shout out to VOP TV, man. Keep watching. Don't change the dial. Thank you and God bless you.
My name is AY, and of course, I represent the voice of the people, and that's why I'm on VOP. AY say so.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Miriam Tima from The Real Housewives of Lagos and The Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip Africa. Shout out to VOP, the voice of the people. You already know. Stay tuned, keep watching. And don't forget, VOP is the best.
All right, hello, how are you? That's Shaggy, the man, fine back with Melanie Poppy Black Skin Boy. This is VOP TV. If you're not watching VOP, I don't know what you're watching. Maybe you're watching your weight. Bye.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Wale Ojo, and you're watching VOP, Voice of the People.
Hi, guys. You already know who it is. This is New Energy. Flyers, whatever, live it. Keep watching VOP TV. Thank you.
Hi, people. Ginny Albano here. Guys, please keep watching Voice of the People.
We encourage you to click on the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are Voice of the People TV. Also follow us on all our social media platforms. We are at VOP TV Live. Visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news. Also watch us live on SLTV channel 264. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television.
Hello and welcome to the African News and Voice of the People Television. I am David Edwin. Before we begin the news, I would urge you to kindly visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news stories. We begin the African news from South Africa, where South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has strongly condemned the United States' actions in Venezuela, saying that he's utterly rejecting Washington's conduct and demands immediate release of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores. Speaking at the 31st annual Joe Slovo commemoration in Soweto, Ramaphosa said South Africa demands the immediate release of Maduro and his wife following their detention by U.S. forces. Ramaphosa praises Slovo as an internationalist who fought not only for the liberation of South Africans, but for oppressed people across the continent and the world. According to him, Slovo's principles continue to guide the international outlook of the Africa's National Congress, that's the ANC. He added that this informed South Africa's solidarity with the people of Palestine, Western Sahara, and Cuba, and with all communities denied their right to self-determination. Meanwhile, the Democratic Alliance, that's the DA in South Africa, has slammed the African National Congress, ANC, governing government's foreign policy, accusing it of double standards in its approach to the United States invasion of Venezuela to oust President Nicolas Maduro. South Africa has condemned the U.S. action at an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council on Monday, saying the world superpower had flouted international law. However, the DA is calling out the ANC for not having adopted the same stance when Russia invaded Ukraine almost 4 years ago. DA Member of Parliament and International Relations spokesperson Ryan Smith said that Putin pressure on the United Nations to act against the U.S. for its military action in Venezuela exposes contradictions and inconsistencies in the ANC's diplomatic approach. Away from that report, Guinea Supreme Court has validated results showing a landslide election win for coup leader Mamadi Doumbouya, thereby clearing the way for the former Special Forces commander to serve a 7-year term as president. The court also said the second-place finisher, Abdullahi Bade, had dropped his legal challenge to this result, which was condemned by opposition supporters online, though Bade is yet to comment. Mboya, thought to be in his early 40s, seized power in the West African nation rich in bauxite and iron ore in the 2021 coup, toppling then President Alpha Conde. On New Year's Eve, Conde gave a speech dismissing the vote as a masquerade. However, the court's validation required after every vote confirmed provisional result that Mboya has secured 86.72% of the vote in the December 28 election against a fragmented field of 8 challengers. In a short speech after the ruling, Mboya called on all the daughters and sons of the nation, both at home and in the diaspora, to come together to build a new Guinea. Still on election matters, President of the Central African Republic, Faustin Archange Touadera, has won a 3rd term in office, according to provisional results from the National Electoral Authorities. The results show that Touadera got 76.15% of the vote in last month's elections. He was first elected in 2016 and re-elected in 2020 with 53.16% of the vote in the first round. The country's 2023 constitutional referendum removed term limits and increased the term of office to 7, allowing Touadera to run for a 3rd term. The 68-year-old former mathematics professor campaigned on security gains, crediting alliances with Russian security contractors restructured from the Wagner Group and Rwandan troops for recapturing territories from rebels and signing recent peace deals. The partnership have deepened Moscow's influence in the mineral-rich nation, with Russia gaining access to gold, diamonds, lithium, increasingly difficult to monitor and document human rights violations ahead of the January 15 elections. Amnesty International researcher Sikula Onyala has said the authorities appeared intent on sealing all possible channels of communication both within Uganda and beyond its borders. However, Zawadi told newsmen that the government has neither announced or directed any internet shutdown during the elections, adding that such are intended to cause fear and confusion amongst the public. Still in Uganda, Ugandan government said it was banning live broadcasts of riots, unlawful procession, and other violent incidents ahead of the elections in which President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is seeking to extend his 40-year rule. The authorities have detained hundreds of opposition supporters ahead of the January 15th election, which again pits the 81-year-old Museveni against the 43-year-old pop star turned politician Bobby Wine. According to the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, live broadcasting or streaming of riots, unlawful procession, or violent incidents is prohibited as it can escalate tensions and spread panic. The ministry also prohibited the dissemination of any content it describes as inciting, hateful, or violent, with authorities often describing anti-government protests as riots. From Uganda, we'll go straight to Kenya, where law enforcement officers in Marsabit, Kenya, have arrested a 23-year-old woman, Mome Wario, for procuring an illegal abortion, alongside a 50-year-old unlicensed practitioner, Haron Muturi, who carried out the procedure. The arrest followed disturbing reports from Malkalakore village, where residents discovered a lifeless male fetus, estimated to be 6 months old, wrapped in clothing. Police quickly recovered the body and transferred it to Marsabit Referral Mortuary for preservation, while investigators focused on Wario, who had been visibly pregnant in the days preceding the incident, but was later without a child. During police questioning, she confessed to being the mother of the deceased fetus, leading officers to the unlicensed clinic where the abortion was conducted. At the clinic, authorities found Muturi operating without registration. Still in Kenya, no fewer than 9 persons, including 2 minors, have died in a road accident involving a bus and a private minibus along the Nairobi-Nakuru highway. The bus was said to have collided with a 14-seater minibus earlier in the morning, according to police, while several other passengers sustained injuries and were rushed to nearby hospitals for treatment. In a statement, the Kenyan Red Cross said several other passengers were injured in the early morning collision and were rushed to Naivasha District Hospital, where they were receiving emergency medical treatment. The latest tragedy comes just days after another fatal accident along the same highway claimed 6 lives. Glad to have you back. Moving on to other stories, the National Election Board of the Ethiopia has launched new digital platforms aimed at modernizing voter and candidate registration in the 2026 general elections. The system, which includes mobile and web-based application, was officially introduced during a launch event in Addis Ababa. Specifically, the launch of the comprehensive digital map, Mechache, reflects NIBE's wider initiative to modernize Ethiopia's electoral system through technology. The app marks a major milestone in Ethiopia's electoral history, as it is the first time the country is fully integrating digital technology into the election process. Speaking at the event, Federal Supreme Court President Tewodrop Mihart emphasized that the use of technology in elections is crucial for enhancing transparency and public trust. He noted that technology-assisted electoral systems have been successfully implemented in many countries and could help ensure a fair and credible election. Still in Ethiopia, authorities in Ethiopia say that no fewer than 22 migrants have been killed and 65 others injured after a lorry in which they were traveling overturned in Ethiopia's northeastern Afar region. According to the statement by a senior Afar official, Mohammed Biodo, about 85 Ethiopian migrants were traveling along the eastern migration route when the lorry overturned in the town of Semera on Tuesday morning. The final destination was unclear, but the route typically runs from Ethiopia through Djibouti, across the Red Sea to Yemen, and onward to Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern countries. Yemen is a major pathway for migrants from the Horn of Africa traveling to Gulf states in search of work. Biedo said that 30 of the injured are in a critical condition. Meanwhile, the Afar regional government said it was doing all the necessary life-saving operations on the injured migrants following the horrific accident. You're still watching the African News right here on Voice of the People Television. We'll go straight to the analysis segment of the news. And joining us virtually to make sense of these stories and more, all the way from Uganda, is Barrister Edward Okwaro Matakinye. Barrister Edward is a human rights activist and also a public and political affairs analyst and commentator. Barrister, a very good afternoon to you.
Very good afternoon to you, to David at the studio. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for joining us. And also joining us all the way from Kenya, virtually as well, is Mr. Martins Irere Njwe. Mr. Martins is a public and political affairs analyst and also the CEO of, I'm trying to get the name of the company now, but then again, he's an entrepreneur for excellence in Kenya. Thank you so very much, Mr. Martins, for being here. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. David, and thank you for welcoming me back.
Thank you so very much for joining the conversation, and Happy New Year to you as well.
Happy New Year to you.
All right, then. Let's start off this conversation from the fact that 22 Ethiopians, news getting to our newsroom now, 22 Ethiopian migrants died in a road accident early hours of this morning, particularly, and 65 injured in a road where around the northeastern Afar region, a road that has been adjudged to be more like a route typically that runs from Ethiopia and Djibouti and of course across the Red Sea, passing through Yemen and all, leading onward to Saudi Arabia. First, I'm going to start off with you, Barrister Edward. What is your position with this level of migration of Africans leaving their country towards the Mediterranean and, of course, for greener pastures, if you ask me, but in a route that has been adjudged deadly by security and safety officials across Africa?
David, it is unfortunate that we are losing lives on actually such carnages on the roads, which actually Africa should be looking at. Our infrastructure is very poor. But reasons why people migrate, they have different reasons. And probably I would say in search of green pastures, in search of jobs, in search of different issues in Africa. Because Africa has become one of the continents where even its own citizens are no longer actually depending on. So the best way is you to move where you can a bit find life. So jobs is one of the reasons why people migrate. The other one maybe is a good condition of environment where you can settle and probably have a kind of a future you need. So it is unfortunate that these people got into such a calamity on the way. So we really not happy for that. But those are the reasons why people actually migrate.
Interestingly, Mr. Martins, you are a business and, of course, financial advisor. From your perspective, do you think, aside the fact that this is a greener pasture move on the path of these migrants, 22 of these people losing their lives, and most importantly, Ethiopia, a country that is still trying to grapple up with its economy and do better with her economy, is losing these lives to, of course, the harsh hands of death because the people want greener pasture. What's your position on the part that some have said that the government of Abiy, that's the president of Ethiopia, is not doing well enough economically to help her people stay in the country?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. David, and again, Happy New Year. First and foremost is to condole with the family that has lost their loved one in this road carnage. Secondly, to mention is that, Africa, we are not creating an environment to enhance employment, to nurture talent, and that's why you see most of African youths and probably middle age opting to travel overseas to seek for green pasture and their daily livelihood. And Africa, I urge the African leaders that we are sitting on wealth that can nurture not only the current generation, but the generation to come. But essentially, if we are not using the potential or the minerals or the wealth at disposal to harness or to address this issue, we're gonna have the Africa whereby everyone is migrating overseas to seek the green pasture, which can be found here. Secondly, Africa, through the AU, African Union, should harness a network in infrastructure. Because now when it comes to the time of festive season, you find that our roads are so busy, traffic, you find these various people, road users are not observing traffic rules, and hence we are ending up losing life. So I address this issue to the African leaders. They should understand that infrastructure is one of the key lifter of the economy. And once it is ignored, it means that we are not steering Africa forward, but we are in a state of retrogression.
All right, then. I'm still staying with you, Mr. Martins. Interestingly, we just mentioned 22 dying of road accidents in Ethiopia, and of course, 69 still fatally injured and, of course, rushed to the hospital. I'm coming to Kenya. 9 persons died early hours of this morning in a road crash in your country. Now, this is becoming one too many, and there is also what a lot of people has termed as negligence of government, particularly on the fact that about 310 billion Kenyan shillings have been, of course, lost annually to road crashes. Some have called this an act of negligence on the part of government. But what would you say that the government has not done right on the part of getting not only to form cameras, road cameras, rubble strip, and of course median barriers that has become a major problem in the roads in Kenya?
Thank you, Mr. David. One thing is that it not only in Kenya but across the African continent we have a poor roads network. Secondly, is when we come to the distribution of revenue from the government. You find the money that was meant for the infrastructure development. That money is either squandered or rooted in an industrial scale. Hence, we find that money that was meant to maintain our roads, they are channeled to individual interest. Hence, our own network will be um, poor condition until we lose more people, ends and default. So this issue of accident has been a perennial issue. It is recurring, but mostly during the festive season, as I've said earlier, is when that you find our roads are occupied or are busy. And hence, if our roads are poor maintained, it happens that vehicle can have mechanical issue, which now driver may have no control over it. Hence, you find there are potholes in our roads, which might cause accident now and then if our roads are not maintained. So I'm returning the bullet back to the government, and not only Kenyan government, but across the African continent, that they address this issue of infrastructure. Because once infrastructure is ignored, it means even the cross-border to search for the green patch that is helping a percentage of our population, it means that we will be in a situation whereby even hand and mouth it becomes an issue. So once we address this issue of infrastructure, our economy will do well. Our system will be smooth.
All right then. Well, I'm still going to stay with you before I go to Uganda, because again, some have said the act of not being accountable for these kind of incidents has cost so much on the part of government. Now, the part of responsibility is what I want to talk to. Now, after 2 deadly crashes in just days, how many, because you are in Kenya, how many matatu SACCOs have been suspended? I'm talking about officials now, have been suspended, and how many vehicles have been impounded? Plus, you know better how the government of Kenya also operates in terms of budgeting. What would you say is the government doing different with the 2026 budget, particularly on these kind of accidents for reoccurrence not happening? And again, like I said earlier, who have been held accountable for these crashes? Two already major accidents in just days.
Yes, thank you so much. One thing is that government has put the measures in place, whereby if you are found culpable where you are not observing the traffic rules, you're gonna be imprisoned or fined. But that will not address the key of accident. That's why I've said that infrastructure is the issue. Because now if we ignore the infrastructure, we end up being with the people in the jail, people who are desperate to feed their families, people who want to build the economy. So even if you jail someone because of traffic rule and where the issue is road maintenance, you have not solved the issue. You have escalated the issue to the next year. So the issue here is about our road network being well maintained. Secondly, people who are found culpable of violating the traffic rules or rules, they face imprisonment, they face stamp fines. But to me, I advocate the government in African continent to observe infrastructure being honest, so that it can address our economy and our day-to-day life.
All right, then. Let me take this conversation to Uganda, where Barrister Edward is still waiting and, of course, standing by. Well, Barrister, I still want to come to you on the same conversation. Why are people not being held accountable for these kind of, I don't want to call it error, very visible act of negligence, if you ask me? Why is the government not practically talking on the part of holding someone accountable? These accidents, 2 in just less than 1 week, have happened in Kenya. And I want you to also, marry this whole conversation with the fact that the recent arrest that was being made about a couple of days ago, the Marsabit police arresting a young quack doctor who, of course, carried out an illegal abortion on a 40-year-old, a 23-year-old woman. What do you make of all of this and people not being held accountable for actions?
Yeah, you know, accountability remains in the leadership in hand. So there is a political will. We will be talking about the political will, which is also not there in the leadership in Africa. We particularly talk about maybe if I am to use example with Kenya, you get that today the current ruling government, you get that the president is a man who deals with so many businesses, and you get that to the level of allocating his own family to some of these sectors. I know better of one, a son of the president, who's actually engaged in the transport sector. So you get that there is nothing like you can actually be accountable when you are practicing the same activity. So it is very difficult for the government to make policies, even though those policies are there. People's lives are just like used for this kind of political gains, because the policies are being ignored. We now look at where do you belong politically. So in the event that you actually even have been found capable on this some of these issues, you get that what is in your hand. That is one thing they look at. So as long as you are capable of managing the situation within and get out of it, then be it. So those who are totally poor will always continue to suffer. And that is the Africa we are talking about today. The leadership in Africa does no longer value what we call human rights.
In other words, conflict of interest is what is visible.
Exactly, a conflict of interest is what is working so much in Africa. So you look at so many issues. You have just had some of the countries which are going against the US actually now acting on the Venezuela issues.
Yes.
So some of these people are scared already because they are culprits. They think now things have started working against them. So I think Africa should wake up, and not even the revenue. I've seen most of the African countries run to China for loans on the issues of infrastructure, which is not actually even working. We don't know where does this loan go. Africa has been borrowing a lot. We are in debt in every corner, just in the purpose of making our roads good, but these roads are not working. Everything just under quagmire. That is the problem.
All right, then. Well, let me stay with you, Barrister Edward. Interestingly, the government of Uganda has said clearly that it was banning live broadcast of riots, unlawful procession, and other violent incidents ahead of the elections in which President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is seeking to extend his 40-year run. First off, what's your position with these statements coming from the government? Plus, there's been allegations of the fact that the internet will be shut down during elections. And of course, the government has come to debunk that statement, saying this was a false narrative coming from opposition. But what's your position with these kind of activities of banning riots, processions coming from the government?
You know, it is against the law to ban rioting, banning people who want to demonstrate in peace, because it is a right of every citizen in Uganda to actually demonstrate as long as they are not armed. So those are things we actually looking at now, that the government is now trying to intimidate, is trying to sell fear to the citizens when they are going for voting. The issue of internet, that one I want you to look at the history. The last election, it happened the same way, because that is the time the ruling government, the ruling party, actually did the same. So it is not new to Uganda. In fact, as we are talking in Uganda, I want to tell you, there is something called internet. You can't get anywhere. You buy data, you're only using 2 minutes, you no longer have that data. So there is a way they have made their rules that no social media should be actually so much. People should not be active in social media in Uganda. So that communication is meant to threaten and it is meant to intimidate the electorate. And it is going to be like that. There is nothing like a denial. The government is prepared. I want to take you back to the statement of the president concerning the CNN journalist, Maduro, where he actually raised up and said he does not want Maduro to cover or to come and interfere with elections in Uganda like Tanzania. So those are some of the things, the fear the president is actually having. So that is happening, and I confirm to you, there is no internet in Uganda.
Wow, that's quite an unfortunate one, really, because questions are being asked afterwards. Why is the government trying to change the narrative, calling what is naturally called a protest a riot? Because again, as it stands, the statement of the government is that it was banning live broadcasts on riots, whereas what is said was protest. And then the question I want to find out from you before I go to Kenya is the fact that if the process truly, like the government is saying, is going to be free and fair, why criminalize live coverages of protests? And of course, who benefits from these acts when citizens can't see events unfolding in real time during election?
I want you to ask yourself where the other candidates are being prohibited from campaigns. I don't know whether that is what we call fair kind of a play game, which is that you prevent me from selling my manifesto. You prevent me from reaching the electorate. Is that really being fair? So I want to assure you, Uganda does not have fair election. This is undecided. This is a decided election. The president knows what they are doing, and they know that the election is already done. We are just waiting a date of pronouncement, which is coming on 15th. After that date, Museveni will again be in power, just the way he has always been. But being fairness there is nothing like being fair in Uganda.
Oh, well, before I come back to you, let me take this conversation to Kenya. Mr. Martins, interestingly, you are, I want to use the Ugandan state, so to say. From your perspective, as it stands, in 2021, there was a 4-day blackout, which of course was attributed before the election, which was attributed to some technical glitches and all of that. What's your position about the fact that hundreds of opposition supporters ahead of the January 15 election are presently still in custody before election day? Mr. Martins, I don't know if you can hear me. Maybe you need to unmute your mic.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. David.
Go ahead.
To start with is to say that African continent leaders, particularly presidents, they are running a system of state recapture of institutions. You find the electoral commission in every country is an independent, but essentially it is the mouthpiece of the state. Secondly, is whereby we are in our continent there is no what we call transparent, verifiable, and clear election, because you find it is a perennial issue happening every election year. You find the election is not verifiable, it is not transparency. Transparency is mean when you ban the media, and now sorry to mention the Media Act. The Media Act is violated by all African leaders, because where there is no media, it means there is no transparency. When someone is kidnapped or he is taken in communicado, it means if media is not alert, what's gonna happen? That is a violation of what we call Media Act, which should still be be at the center of our rules and regulation. Secondly, the issue of arresting people. You see, if government is threatening the people, they want to take them to the possession. It means that you are capturing the right of humanity. Hence, it means that there is no what we call right of speech. And when there is no right of speech, there is no balance in politics. So we have to address the issues that is affecting our election and our governance.
Now,
but when we address this,
sorry to butt in here. I want to cut you because I know you're a financial person, and I want us to look at the economic optics of these kind of decision by the government to shut down internet in Uganda. Some have said, as it stands, investor price governance risk is going to go higher than what it's supposed to be going into a new year because of this election. What's your position with that economic optics, particularly on the suspension and, of course, the shutdown of internet in the entire country, as an economist?
From the perspective of understanding the governance, that is a lame excuse whereby people want to use their personal forces to enforce something. So saying that you are cutting over the network, it means you are affecting the people who are benefiting from the internet. Right. There are people who they find their daily life they will be through internet, and not only that, the global market will be affected if the network is cut short. So this is individuals that want to enforce their personal interest to humiliate not only the individuals but to humiliate the whole country. That's what we are calling state capture of institution. If government should observe the rule of law, it should not come to a state whereby they are capturing institutions that need to be independent. Because if the institutions that should be independent are captured or they are mouthpiece of the state, we have no Africa to speak for the common man.
All right, well, let me take this conversation back to Barrister Edward. You are a human rights activist, and as it stands, at least 550 opposition supporters detained, allegedly from what we hear and reports coming from Uganda. As it stands, the January 15 election, from your perspective, how much of an electoral clarity are we going to be seeing across Uganda, particularly on the landscape, political landscape of Uganda? Of course, owing to the fact that the U.S. government presently is looking almost on all countries, at all countries in Africa.
In fact, that is what we call a free and fair election in Uganda, a state of military. So Uganda, the president coming up with such statements that is actually declaring these elections free and fair, it is unfortunate. As we talk right now, you get that militaries, convoys patrol the city. So there's no even a freedom of movement in the city, in the capital of Uganda. Not only the capital, most of the cities in Uganda, just because, even though you say this is providing security, you cannot use military. We have what we call police, right, which are actually entitled to do this work. Right. But I'm failing to understand why is the president bringing a special army to man this kind of election. This is a freedom for every citizen of Uganda. So all that is one way of deterring, one way of converting, one way of just confusing the world in the name of security. It, just as you have said, how many opposition supporters are in prison. It is a week ago when the general, who is now the in charge of military, the son of the president,
Right.
actually declared that the prison, which is called the Luzira prison, be cleared before 15th, so that now the prison should be full of the opposition, and that is the arrangement of the son. Wow. So in actual sense, there is no free and fair elections we are looking at. We are looking at the situation whereby one candidate is totally in fear, is actually guarding himself in the name of a free and fair statement, which is not correct. So okay. I see nothing coming good on 15th, but just to denounce what is not right for again Ugandans.
Well, I want to say big thank you to you, Barrister Edward Okwaramatakinye, for joining the analysis segment of the African News. We're really pressed for time. I would have loved to continue on this conversation, but I definitely know that as the days progress, we definitely also will be talking about this even much more. And of course, we'll be having you chime in on some of the developments that we see coming from Uganda. Once again, thank you so very much, Barrister Edward, for being here.
Thank you so much, my brother.
Also, thank you so very much, Mr. Martins Ivere-Njue. Mr. Martins is a political and public affairs analyst and a financial advisor. He is the CEO and founder of Wealthgate Insurance Agency in Kenya. Mr. Martins, thank you so very much also for lending your voice on the African News segment analysis. All right, then. Well, we have to take a break right now. When we return, more stories on the African News will be up next. Please do stay with us. We'll be right back. Glad to have you back. It's still the African News right here on Voice of the People Television. Now to more stories. The Liberian Senate has approved far-reaching legislation to dismantle the National Port Authority and overhaul the country's maritime governance framework, maintaining key provisions that President Joseph Boakai had vetoed. President Boakai had warned that the lawmakers ignored in the legislation some fundamental legal, structural, and constitutional flaws that could destabilize port operations and weaken executive authority. Though he raised several key concerns in his veto, the Senate's Joint Committee comprising the Transport and Judicial Committee told the plenary prior to pre-passage that his main issues were rather with the bill's nomenclature and table of contents. Critics say that the repassage of the bill prompts accusation that lawmakers were effectively neutralizing the constitutional role of the presidency by reenacting substantially similar laws without addressing their defects. From Liberia to Mali, where reports say mining ministry official has said that suspected jihadists attacked the Morila gold mine in Mali at the weekend, burning equipment and taking 7 employees hostage before releasing them. The attack highlights mounting security risk in Mali, which is Africa's third largest gold producer and which is battling Al-Qaeda's linked jihadists that have targeted economic access and foreign investment. A spokesperson for Mali's mine ministry and another person familiar with the matter disclosed that armed men attacked the mine, for which the United States-based Flagship Gold signed an investment agreement last year. According to them, the attackers burnt equipment and took 7 employees hostage, but released them all the following evening. They added that the army has taken control of the situation and was conducting a sweep of the area. And from that story, we move straight to talking African business. Senegal's international bond prices have shot up, with prices risen by over 2%, driven by investor optimism about the possibility of a new International Monetary Fund lending program. According to TradeWeb data, Senegal's 2033 dollar bond led the gains, climbing 2.8% to trade at 62% on the dollar, marking its highest level in 5 weeks. Advance followed a sharp sell-off that pushed the bond to a record low on December the 17th. Senegal's euro-dominated bonds also rose over 2%. Emerging markets sovereign analyst at Aviva investor Carmen Autenquich disclosed that Senegal had a difficult year in 2025 with bond at levels that largely priced in a restructure. Autenquich added, however, that a good bond auction on the regional market and the prospect of an IMF visit in January has created some optimism. She added that if a credible IMF deal is done and the government shows commitment to consolidation, then bonds could potentially go sub 10%. Still talking business, and in Kenya, the Stanbic Bank Kenya Purchasing Managers Index, that's PMI, showed that private sector economy maintained solid growth in December, driven by robust customer demand and increased business activities. The headline PMI stood at 53.7 in December, down from 55.0 in November, indicating a continued expansion in business conditions. Reading above 50.0 denotes growth, while those below indicate contraction. Kenyan firms reported a marked rise in activity, sales, and purchases, with employment growth hitting at highest rates since November 2019. According to economist Christopher Legishilio, the Kenyan PMI stayed in expansion territory, albeit slower